Hey y'all, check this out. France just tested its next-generation air defense system, and instead of quietly deploying it at home, Paris is openly talking about sending it straight into a live war zone. Not a NATO exercise, not a test range, to Ukraine. That should make you pause, because countries don't normally debut brand new strategic level air defense systems under real enemy fire unless two things are true. First, they are confident that it works. And second, they think the threat environment in Ukraine is now defining the future of European air defense. That system is called the SAMP-NG. And if it arrives in 2026 as promised, it may become the most capable European-built air defense layer Ukraine has ever fielded. Hey friends, Wes here, and wonder me, but you want to do this MTNG? This is one of our best defense units, huh? I didn't need to go get that baguette, huh? Anyway, this is not a press release weapon. This is not some maybe someday concept. This is a system France and Italy are betting their own airspace on, and Paris is signaling it wants Ukraine to be the first in line. Let's break down what the SAMP-NG actually is, why France is moving this fast, and what it would change if Ukrainian crews get their hands on it. On December 22nd, 2025, Thales announced the first successful live-fire test of the SAMP-NG configuration at France's DGA missile test range in Biscarrosse. This was a validation shot. The test paired two things that matter enormously in modern air defense: a fully modernized engagement module and a brand new radar called Ground Fire. Thales was very deliberate in how it framed the announcement. The language wasn't incremental improvement, it was generational change. And they attached a date to it. Deliveries begin in 2026. That's now. 2026 keeps showing up for a reason. It is the point where SAMP-NG stops being a development program and starts being a fielded weapon in Ukraine. And here's where it gets politically interesting. President Emmanuel Macron has publicly stated that once the system enters service, Ukraine should be its first deployment. That line was echoed by official French aid to Ukraine accounts, which is not how governments talk when something is purely hypothetical. This is France signaling intent. So at its core, SAMP-NG is a road-mobile, medium to long-range air defense battery designed to protect a city, an airbase, or a cluster of critical infrastructure. Not a trench line, not a brigade on the move. This is a strategic footprint. The battery is built around a digital engagement module that fuses tracks, assigns interceptors, and manages engagements either as a standalone unit or as part of a national air defense network. In a standard configuration, one SAMP-NG battery controls up to 6 vertical launchers, each carrying 8 Aster 30 interceptors. That gives a single firing unit 48 ready missiles before reload. That's insane, because saturation is now the primary problem in air defense. You do not defeat modern attacks one missile at a time. You defeat them by surviving the first wave without immediately running dry. Now, the biggest upgrade in the NG variant is the Ground Fire radar. This is a lot more than a lightly tweaked sensor. It is a fully digital AESA radar designed from the ground up for the threat mix Ukraine is already facing. Thales states that Ground Fire provides 360-degree coverage up to 90 degrees in elevation and surveillance out to roughly 400 kilometers with track refresh every second. That combination is huge. Low, slow drones hiding in clutter, fast jets skimming terrain, ballistic targets dropping in steep, compressed timelines, whatever. Ground Fire is built to see all of them without rotating, sectoring, or reorienting the battery, kind of like Patriot has to do. And crucially, the radar is not a theoretical radar. Thales moved Ground Fire into series production in early 2025, which means the industrial base is already spinning. That's why 2026 is credible. Now, interception is handled by the Aster missile family, specifically the Aster 30 Block 1, new technology variant on the NG roadmap. This is a vertically launched interceptor with inertial navigation, mid-course updates, and an active seeker in the terminal phase. Its defining feature is PIF-PAF control, which combines aerodynamic surfaces with lateral thrusters that allow the missile to maneuver violently at the end of flight, exactly where ballistic and maneuvering targets try to break intercept geometry. Eurosam, one of the manufacturers along with Thales, has consistently framed SAMP-T as a true 360-degree theater defense system, with ballistic missile defense built into the design, not bolted on later. But it doesn't just go after drones. It can attack Iskanders, cruise missiles, and glide weapons launched from outside Ukrainian airspace. So how would Ukraine use it differently? If Ukraine receives SAMP-T, which is looking very likely this year, it will not sit on the front line, it will live deep. The likely employment concept is layered defense, protecting air bases with F-16s, command nodes, energy infrastructure, all while feeding high-quality track data into Ukraine's national defense network. That sensor picture alone has value. A wide area radar like Ground Fire improves cueing for fighters, for shorter range systems, and other interceptors already in service. Mobility is also a key factor. SAMP-T is designed to fire and then relocate, reducing vulnerability to anti-radiation missiles and forcing Russia to constantly rediscover the battery. When we talk about shoot and scoot, we normally talk about artillery. But how often do you have a large theater-wide air defense system that can shoot and scoot? They are pretty rare. And that cat and mouse game matters. Russian reconnaissance has improved. Ukraine's air defense survivability now depends on staying unpredictable. So how does it compare to the Patriot? I think that's the obvious comparison, because Patriot is combat proven, heavily supported, and deeply integrated into NATO's logistics. Ukraine already uses it effectively, but Patriot's legacy radar architecture has historically imposed a sector view. Newer upgrades help, but 360-degree coverage is not native in the same way it is with SAMP-T. Compared to NASAMS and IRIS-T SLM, SAMP-T sits higher in the stack. It defends a larger footprint. It handles heavier ballistic missions. It costs more, and it demands more disciplined missile logistics, so this is not a replacement system, but it is a top-tier layer. And that brings us back to France's decision. France is in the middle of a massive rearmament and modernization cycle. It is reinvesting heavily in its own forces, which means older systems are rotating out and new ones are coming online. By signaling that Ukraine could be the first operational deployment of SAMP-T, Paris is doing three things at once. It is reinforcing Ukraine's air defense at the strategic level. It is validating a European alternative to Patriot in real combat conditions. And it is locking Ukraine into a long-term European defense integration. Under the new bilateral defense agreement signed in November, Ukraine is reportedly slated to receive up to 8 SAMP-T systems, totaling 48 launchers. Sacre bleu! Alongside deeper cooperation on drones, interceptors, and guided munitions. This is a 10-year relationship. If SAMP-T arrives in Ukraine in 2026, which is looking very likely, it will become the most capable European-built air defense system operating in the war. Not because Patriot disappears, not because NASAMS or IRIS-T stop being important, but because layered defense works when each layer is optimized for a different part of the problem. Ukraine's air defense fight is no longer about stopping one missile. It is about surviving sustained pressure without collapsing in on itself. SAMP-T fits that logic. And the fact that France is willing to debut it in Ukraine tells you something very important. The future of European air defense is being shaped there, whether everyone likes it or not. Ukraine is not just receiving weapons anymore, it is defining which ones matter. And France is paying attention. That's it for today, my friends. If you enjoy borderline offensive French impersonations or all-around military technology goodness, maybe hit subscribe. Just a suggestion. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.